Hi everyone and welcome to World of Possibilities, Creative and Healing Power of Games. Hello, my name is Miriam Melgoza, and I'm co-founder and digital artist for Visual Studio. We're a small indie team located in Querétaro, Mexico. I have a degree in graphic design, and as many devs, I have to wear many hats at Visual Studio. I'm also a PR representative, and I'm currently working on several entertainment-related projects. And I'm delighted to get a chance to work in something that I feel very passionate about, which are video games. Beyond that, what makes me really happy is what we can achieve without them. There's a wide range of possibilities that can add joy and comfort to your life. So let's begin.
Hi, my name is Veronica Butlira. I have a BA in clinical psychology and an MA in family therapy. I specialized in teenagers and video games. I'm the founder of MBG Therapy, also a mental video games therapy, a community formed by psychologists and psychiatrists and a historian located in Mexico City, Mexico. I'm currently working as an external therapist for a company and treating patients privately in my office.
It's good to see you, Veronica. I'm
Good,
so happy that we can share this space together.
good to see you, Miriam. A new place to share.
So, we're gonna begin talking about the Gnostic tropes, a gamer's look through societal lens. So, video games are bad, but are they? I hear a lot of things said about video games, which could be like, I wish my kid would listen to me instead of playing all day long. Their grades are dropping, must be those video games. What? You're a grown adult and you still play video games? Or how about video games make people violent? And that's a fact. Well, I like to begin talking about my own experience. I'm a 90s kid who grew up in a very Catholic and strict household. Having video games as the hobby was seen as an oddity. And to be honest, being a girl who liked them was something outrageous to them. Times have changed, that's for sure. But back then, no one would cut me any slack for being a big fan of video games. Mexican society see gamers as good for nothings, straight into the path of becoming delinquents or dropouts, and of course, they're labeled as violent people. And it's not only in Mexico. Even the World Health Organization, also known as WHO, between 2018 and 2018 included a gaming disorder, to its 11th edition of the International Classification of Diseases, based on reviews of available evidence and reflects a consensus of experts from different disciplines, which can be really negative for us gamers as an impact that how society keeps looking at us.
Wow, that I'm so I don't know how to feel about that classification, diagnosis. I don't know. It was a surprise for me to read about that because playing video games is a common activity for all of us.
Of course. So I'm gonna keep talking about my personal experience, Veronica. So what's the point of hearing all the bad things that video games are? Well, I like to introduce this to someone very dear to me. This is Raul Melgoza, a hardcore gamer as well, and even as a grown up, a Mexican macho man, a family guy, and a great friend. He didn't escape the judgment of our family. He was constantly asked about why would he waste his time playing video games. Well,
Wow.
he didn't have an answer to please them, but that didn't make him stop. So we would spend many days and nights together playing, and it seems that video games were a middle ground, a bridge to enjoy something together. And there was little judgment for us because we would enjoy and cherish this activity together. Sadly, he passed away 9 years ago. And whenever I get the chance to play a new game, I always stop and wonder, will this game be of his liking?
Wow. So you have the school of video games from your house.
Of course, I did.
That's incredible.
Yeah, thank you. So I wanted to make games. And I started as any other kid, drawing fan arts. And as I grew up, I realized the many implications I had to deal in order to achieve this. When I was a child, I used to spend hours trying to mimic pixel art in my drawings. I thought that video games had a very unique look. They didn't look as cartoons, you know? So I always tried to achieve that with my art, and I was really frustrated that I couldn't make it look as those pixel funny looking square things. So it wasn't until I got to middle school that I got in touch with the first computer equipment ever in my life, which was an IBM computer. And this IBM computer contained a very special program that is very dear to me nowadays. It's called the Logo Turtle. It was a programming software, and I felt like I was getting closer to video games. The software was very simple. You needed to input commands to a tiny turtle in the screen, and it will go spaces up, down, left, right, like that. So I was really delighted to see, like, oh, they look like that. So, given my opportunities, I tried to get closer to this. And I didn't have any video games career or studies or academic formation for doing so. So I enrolled to the university and studied graphic design. The way I tried to approach to game development was just drawing a lot. And then I got contacted in 2014 for my very first game related job, which was UI and icon illustrator. But as soon as I got there, the company just vanished in thin air. So I thought that I will never be able to do games again. I was really frustrated. And as a 20 mid something, I was just looking for a decent job. And after a while, until 2017, I went to this animation festival in which I happened to come across with many Mexican developers that were doing well actually on mobile games. I got really inspired by them. So we decided to give it a chance. I was going with my friends. And maybe we should go and try to make our own independent studio. And so my journey on game dev began, thanks to friends.
Wow, that's inspiring, Miriam.
Thank you.
Friends always makes us do the things that we love.
That's right, Veronica. So the true reason behind making games, well, I got a lot of new experiences now that I have the ability to make my own games. And one of them is getting in touch with people through our game was a new fun experience for me. And I wanted to people to keep connected through them. So we developed a game called Lunchapalooza, which is a party game, and you can find it already on Steam on Xbox One. Back while developing, we didn't know how to promote it. Of course, we were so new, and we started to go to local university and expos and museums, and they will lend us tables so we could display our games. You see, Mexico is a country where not everyone has had a chance to play with a video game console, let alone a PC gaming experience. So while kids currently gather to play our game, I realized that parents will shy away from them, and I could understand why. So there's a technological illiteracy, and it's a result of different opportunities in life. And the impact of poverty will make them adverse to play video games, which in turn will make them the butt of the joke of their kids. So since I saw that big gap between children and parents in Mexico, I would encourage parents to play your game. I
Yeah.
will be patient with them and I will teach them how to play since our game is very easy to learn. You just need a joystick and a couple buttons. So then I will see how their kids will also patiently explain to them how to play, which was absolutely fantastic. And that sent me back to my days. It was like an epiphany for me. It reminded me when I made a deep bond with my dad playing video games with him, and I wanted to connect people as well and families through my games. Let them develop those precious memories that I shared with my dad. So that's my experience, and that's why I want to keep making video games so people can keep connecting to them.
Wow, that's nice. That's beautiful. And let me tell you something. I remember your game Lunchapalooza uh, uh, briefly. The last year I was on Pixelado
Mhm.
looking for all the Mexican video games, and I saw Lunchapalooza and said, "Wow, that's interesting." I saw that, and I saw also Combate Monero,
Yeah,
and and I said, "Wow, it's the first time that in Pixelado I see video games." That was wow, a huge experience for me. And then the time passed, and then I meet you and say, "Hey, Miriam, it's Lunchapalooza." And there's a lot of work, and I now love it. I'm waiting the Switch version to play it, and I say, wow, that's it's beautiful to talk to you, to work with you, because many people can imagine that a lot of the friendship that we have in common are made because video games.
yeah, that is correct, Veronica. And I want to keep having this kind of deep connections with people.
Yeah,
And if I can make it as a developer, then I'm happy to keep making games.
yeah, that's beautiful.
Thank
Uh,
you.
my experience, it's a little bit different.
Yes.
Sometimes we tell, well, not me, sorry, many people said that the video games are the uncomfortable member of the family. Yeah, it's so common. And and let me tell you a little bit about that. It's really that video games are disintegrating families. Do you think it's true or false?
To me, they do integrate families because I haven't spoken about my mom yet. Back then, she was a big fan of Dance Revolution. As my dad and I would play, a little bit more story or narrative driven games, she will just be happy to dance a little bit with Dance Revolution.
Yeah, it actually is false. Video games don't disintegrate families.
Ah, I'm sorry, I got the whole thing wrong. Yeah, it's false.
Yeah,
They do not disintegrate families.
no,
My
they don't
bad.
disintegrate families.
Yeah.
Uh, Also, what does the video games in the family do? They can reveal the unsolved problems that a family has, such as a lot of problems that I saw in my private practice, like
Mhm.
like lack of communication,
Mhm.
emotional disengagement between the family members. They don't truly know each other.
Mm.
Difficulty to setting appropriate boundaries on problem behaviors, or like use of materialism, no compensation, affection. Yeah, it's so common. Unfortunately, a lot of parents said that video games are the technological nanny. But that was for me weird. Because let me tell you about a little bit of my personal experience. It's it's weird for some people, the why a clinical psychologist work with video games, why a family therapist work with video games in his practice. Well, my first memories uh, are related to video games are from more or less when I was 4 years old. Yeah, I was a little kid. And that was thanks to my mother, Veronica. She used to go grab a cup of coffee uh, with our neighbor. And for some reason, she has a NES. Yeah, it was weird. Uh, at her house, and she let me play with it and say, okay, this is fun. It looks weird. Let's try it. And that was when I first discovered Mario. At the same years, around that year, uh, in my mother's family, I was the youngest niece.
Mhm.
And for some weird reasons, my older cousins gave me an Atari
So cool.
2600. Yeah. But not only the Atari, also with a basket full of cardigans.
Best cousins ever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I saw it, and it was really the heaven. A lot of Atari games. I think it was not their ET, fortunately. Well, and then occasionally I connected to the TV in my that I have in my room, and I start to play. Although I did it for a short time, uh, I don't really understand at that time what I had to do in some of those games. But in those moments, what I really understood was that video games were really fun for me.
I think that's a beautiful experience you have told us today. I think that in Mexico and probably most of 90s kids' childhoods, we
Yeah,
didn't own the actual consoles. We usually go to a neighbors or with our family members in order to get to play those video games. Which, if you see, that will connect us to our community and families.
yeah, yeah. That was. I thought that as 90s kids, we have a lot of privilege technologically talking about because we have the both parts. The we could say it, the analogical part
Yeah,
that was ride a bike, play football,
yeah,
uh, play with plushes, and at the same time we had the digital part that was video games.
yeah.
I think we have that. We can play. We have that. E-
Opportunity to
yeah,
play in
to
the
kill a break.
analogical game. Yeah,
To kill a break. To plan. Yeah,
yeah,
uh,
you got a point.
yeah. And with this, let me tell you that a lot of times, my mom had, how can I say it, were criticized because I play
She
video
was,
games.
yeah, she was
Yeah,
probably asked a lot. Why would she let you spend your time playing video
yeah,
games?
yeah. So a lot of people, family, friends, always told them, "Why did you let your daughter play video games?"
Hmm.
And my mom always said said to them, because her friends play video games, and I
Hmm.
don't want her to feel left out when they
Sure.
talk about them. That's the social part.
She's so supportive.
Yeah, it's the way she bonds with her cousins. Yeah, video games were so important for me and for my cousins. Video games are for both girls and boys. That's
Interesting.
something that I love about my family. Uh, my family, my mom and dad always said, yeah, do you want a G.I. Joe? Take it. Do you want a Lego? Take it. Do you want a Barbie? Take it. Do you want a ball? Take it. Do you want a video game? Take it. Toys and video games are for everybody. That's what I love a lot. And the most important thing that she always told to all the people, and that's so appreciated for me, it's that she said always, because I love her and I love seeing her happy when she plays.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's really beautiful.
Yeah, she really enjoys a lot when I was playing. And let me tell you more about this beautiful life history. Uh, as the years went by, video games become an important part of my life and my family. Well, also about my social life
Hmm.
and my love life.
Well,
Yeah, that's nice for me. Uh, when I was kid, on the weekends, I enjoyed playing with my cousins. We
mm-hmm.
spent hours playing video games, but not only video games. We play video games, soccer, in the tumbling, seek and hide, a lot of games. But what we really enjoyed together was video games.
Yeah.
We used to trade cards uh,
Hmm.
with each other, or also with their neighbors. That was really fun. And sometimes, oh, here's the nostalgia
Nostalgia.
part. Yeah. Sometimes we rented them from Blockbuster.
Good
Yeah.
old memories.
Oh, yeah. I remember Blockbuster. I
Me
love
too.
it. But then, some years later, one Christmas, Santa Claus brought me a Super NES. Yeah.
Neat. So neat.
Yeah, that was
Such an
beautiful.
amazing gift.
Oh, yeah. I was so happy. And my sister and I had hours of fun. And sometimes my dad and my mom would sit and watch us play for a while and try to understand what our games were about. From that moment, playing video games became part of the living with my family. That was for me so really important, video games in my family and in my life. Consoles that we had, my sister and I always took time to play together. To date, we try to continue doing so. The last game I remember we played together was Assassin's Creed Black Flag. I
Hmm.
was playing in my house, and she came to visit us, and she goes to watch me playing and said, "Oh, you're so bad. Give me that." And she started playing, and then my dad and my mom they were seated with us. Like, "Hey, no, be careful. They're going
Oh,
to discover you." Yeah, it was so funny, and reminds me when we were little.
those are really precious memories. And this is something you really, even that, you know, sibling rivalry, it's really important to have it.
Yeah. Uh, and also, when we were kids, obviously, I'm the big one, I'm the player one, and
Mm-hmm.
my sister always was a player too. But in
Ooh.
Mario was something weird. I always loved to play with Luigi, and I always choose Luigi. That it's a character that people think that
It's
the
always the
little
second
sister,
one.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, the little brother sister
But you
were
will
playing.
trade that. You will trade that, right? That
Yeah,
role.
yeah.
So what made you be interested with part of working that with your patients? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, that was um, so part of of my work. Also, as I told you, the video games started being important part of me and my
Mm-hmm.
family.
Mm-hmm.
Also, a really good hobby.
Mm-hmm.
But then the video games start to getting immersed in my professional
Yeah.
practice until the moment they became the central axis of the therapy in some cases. And let me tell you about how does all is this start.
Mm-hmm.
I need to thank to three of all of my professors of my master studies
Mm-hmm.
because one day one of them invited me to participate in her radio program. Yeah, to talk about the importance of playing in development. I remember that the day I decided to talk about playing in adolescence, and it obviously featured video games. Since the approach that until then I had in therapeutic information was little, fortunately, but it turns out to be enough at that time to give a logical argument why they are important in the development of adolescents.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, then, months later, I began to plan what would my master thesis. So I decided to take the risk and opportunity to write about the inclusion of video games in therapy, a subject little explored at the therapeutic level, which I would voice my experience at different levels. Uh, in one side, a personal level, and in the other, as a professional of mental health.
Amazing.
Yeah, yeah, and this is why I decide to. Um, oh, sorry, this thing goes crazy.
Don't worry.
Yeah, this is what I decide that video games were part of working with my patients. I start looking a lot of problematics, but some of them uh, are related to video games.
Hmm.
Um, why? Because main of the form of entertainment for a lot of them, a lot of adolescents, a lot of kids, are video games. In a lot of cases that I saw in my practice are the emotional outlets for all the
Hmm.
problems that they have. They have difficulties when their family with their families for playing video games. There's still a stigma that video games are for people that don't want to do anything. And I start looking at another patients that are so passionate about them that they want to dedicate themselves professionally, such as developers, esports pro players, streamers, designers, and it's also a huge thing for the parents to say, "Whoa, why my kid, my boy, my girl are not going to study medicine, laws? Why does
Why
he want?"
video games?
Yeah, why video games? Why a developer? Why a
Yeah.
sports player? Yeah, and actually, for a lot of them, uh, it's one of their most important ways of socializing, and
Hmm.
we can saw that in this period of our life about of what we are facing in the world. A lot of my patients are talk with her friends at, on video games. And the pandemic, it's not a pain in the ass, sorry for the word, but it's not that for that kids that socialize through video games.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe we can discuss that it's not only for teenagers and
Obviously not.
going through puberty.
Yeah.
So, what we can achieve? how games are used to improve our lives. Maybe we should discuss a little bit more about that. And I like to
Oh,
begin with something that I don't have experience yet, but I think it has a plethora of opportunities, which are the VR technologies. So I'm going to talk about something that I find really impressive is how VR technologies now focus on health.
oh yeah.
So I'm going to talk you about the VR vaccine project, which is a fantastic project developed by collaboration with Hermes Pardini Laboratories, Ogilvy, Brazil, and Lovo, which is a design studio based both in Sao Paulo and New York. And this project changes the whole game. It changes the way kids behave when it comes to vaccination. So their fear for needles and the pain this can induce
Wow.
can be easily forgotten through a VR cutscene, in which, of course, they have this gaming system in which whenever the cotton ball is damped in alcohol and put on their arm, this little elf character like will tell them that it's a special gem. Then it's gonna
Yeah.
feel cold on their arm. And after that, she brings up a special red gem, which is the fire gem. So you need both gems in order to protect this land. So whenever the red gem is put on their arm, that's the moment where the nurse or the doctor would apply the vaccine to their arm. So everything is explained in such a very whimsical fashion. So that makes the children believe that they're the heroes of this universe.
Wow.
And their courageous act and bravery will shield this land from um that protect this fairy tale land from all the enemies. And I think the cutscene there's a lot of rocks thrown at them, and there's a magic shield. So they are learning the importance on this. So this is not the only project dedicated exclusively for vaccination, but also it could be used for blood collecting and as training simulators in much complicated medical procedures. So no more tears, no more fits. Thanks VR.
Yeah. Oh, and I imagine this project to use it in kids with disability that
Yeah,
fear afraid about goes to the doctor, to dentist, and see the world with another part, like be a hero, be a, I don't know, whatever they want.
yeah, whatever they want. There's a
Yeah,
lot of choices, and that's why this is called world of possibilities. So I
yeah,
like to talk about some other sectors that can be benefited with this VR technology. So they can be used as well as a form of therapy for the elderly.
wow,
And the elderly population suffering from different mental illnesses. And you know this.
yeah,
Throughout the world, they can be suffering from dementia to severe cognitive impairment and also from social isolation. This loneliness poses health risks for this vulnerable group. So how can we help them for games? Viva Vida is a company that uses VR technology to bring social interaction to our seniors. They use this VR set, and they organize them so they can go to trips together. They can go for excursions to museums, they can take a stroll in nature, or they can even relive bits of their personal stories on ah sorry about that. They can relive personal stories like visiting their former homes.
yeah,
So this is amazing because this creates a sense of community between them. They feel comfortable and they actually expect every session to come up with. So they can discuss what they felt like. They went to a museum and they happened to see a painting that they've never been able to visit before. And now that since they are older, they cannot actually do that. So that's a really interesting way to treat depression. And this is not an exception, as you were
yeah,
also commenting on this. Physical disabilities such as motor disturbance, paralysis, can actually be treated with virtual reality.
Yeah, yeah. The benefits of video games, virtual reality, are huge. I remember that uh, in psychology faculty of UNAM,
Hmm.
they used to use the VR lenses to treat phobias.
Cool.
Yeah,
That's really
you
cool.
need to be in touch with the stimuli that gives you phobia, but it's not an aggressive. You're going to be step by step control with the VR lens, and you're fighting your phobia. That's so impressive. That's so interesting. And there are a lot of usage of VR video games. Also, the part of some part of the faculty of medicine, I
Hmm.
use video games to rehab patients with neurological problems. They start making their own video games, adapting the VR lenses and
Hmm.
the Kinect and the peripherals of PS4 to start working with neurological patients. There are a lot of
Amazing.
benefits to work with video games.
Yeah, and
And
not only VR, you know?
yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's amazing because you see that the video games are going to be seen from another areas. Imagine when I saw VR lenses, I remember the Virtual Boy, and we thought, oh, that
Yeah.
doesn't work. It's horrible. But now,
Yeah,
uh,
but now we come so much
yeah,
through time that we can all enjoy how virtual reality, how
yeah,
many landscape virtual reality has to offer. So
of
I like
course,
to talk a little bit about my experience with grieving, with coping with grieving.
yeah.
So yeah, video games in some cases can help you cope with grieving, and it's not exclusively throughout VR solutions. I'm going to talk about another personal case, which is Animal Crossing New Leaf. You
Oh
all are
my,
so
yeah.
aware of how the franchise is perceived. So, in my experience and with my father's passing, there was something I was still struggling with. So, back when I got the game back in 2012, I would receive an sporadic letter from him, from my in game dad. He was the fictional game in the Animal Crossing series. And this character just moved away to some island, it usually goes like that with this series.
Yeah.
And I would receive my dad's letter. And it
Oh
really
my.
hit a chord on me. It really, every time that my in-game dad will send me a gift or a letter, I will just pour down my emotions.
Yeah.
But it also helped me and soothed me from that feeling of abandonment, that sense of community that the villagers give you. They're so welcoming. It has such a nice pace. It really helped. So
Yeah.
it's no surprise that throughout this pandemic, the big hit that Animal Crossing New Horizons has, because it has aided gamers throughout the world, and it can help them create alternatives to gather together since we are all social distancing, sorry. So I've seen people create virtual dates, virtual weddings, and even celebrate their religious beliefs throughout the game.
Yeah.
And how the tables have turned it. Now, even the World Health Organization, the one we were previously discussing about that included video games as a disorder, now they encourage the population to play more games.
Yeah.
And as ironic as that is, it also proves that video games can really bring joy even during our darkest hours.
Yeah, of course. Actually, tell a lot of studies about video games, real studies, scientific studies, said that a lot of positive things about video games, more than the negatives. The negatives are, we talk the negatives. How can you say it? Lleno de juicios morales.
Yeah, It has a lot of prejudices.
Yeah, a lot of prejudices, and they're not validated scientifically.
Hmm.
And all the researches that I have, that I read, said the great things about video games. And we need to focus and study it really well. And not only said, oh, you play a lot of video games, you're a junkie, you're addicted. No, we need to know the whole context. We need to know the family. We need to know the socio-political
Yeah,
environment of that person, not kid, person. Because you and I, we were 90 kids, and now
hmm,
we are adults that
hmm,
enjoy video games, that love to work in the industry. We need to start talking about video games with another view, not
yeah,
with prejudice, not with myths. Uh, we need to start seeing them with a lot of benefits. Obviously, if we can say that all excess is bad, but we need to start to know which things we're going to play, which things we're going to
yeah.
consume. Yeah, it's a lot of responsibility. It's not
Of
only
course,
sit
it's not
down.
only play.
Yeah,
Aha.
yeah, it's not only sit down and play.
I want to talk about another example, which is Ring Fit Adventures and Just Dance.
Oh my, yeah,
These are great options for, to beat the couch potato gamer kind of heretic that people seem to think that we're just sitting all day long, maybe eating a bag of chips and just playing video games. But some games can actually help us become more fit.
yeah. Yeah, it's great. It's gorgeous. I remember all the things that Ale told us about Ring Fit Adventure. That I said, oh, I think I'm going to buy it in
Yeah,
some day to start to play. Uh, Just Dance. It's another great example, an interesting example. The last year I had the privilege to meet Damian Paz,
hmm,
the one of the producers of Just Dance, and
amazing.
actually the process to make one song, it's wow, it's huge. It's uh, uh, it's interesting because all the songs you see are done with are done by professional choreographers, dancers, and also the part of the game that is for get fit is made so well that you really had results. And
Yeah,
yeah, and both are games to play and get fit. You don't need to go to the gym and start running a lot. You only need to be disciplinary. Yes, you have to
yes, of course.
of course, but you can do it also with your friends, with your family. Uh, two of my cousins don't play video games, and the only video game that always play with me is
Hmm.
Just Dance, and we love it. We pass hours playing Just Dance, and at the same time
So
we're making exercise.
that's amazing because you get to connect with your family, but you get to do some exercise as well and get results quickly. So I wanted to ask you as well, what kind of problems can people work in therapy with video games? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, it's like the $1 million question
Yeah.
because a lot of people say to me, "Hey, you work with video games, but and what can you work?" Well, there are a lot of problems that I can
Hmm.
work in the therapy. Uh, some of them are the mood disorders
Yeah.
like depression, anxiety, also PTSD, that is
Mm.
post traumatic stress disorder,
Wow.
suicidal behaviors, and also OCD, the obsessive compulsive disorder. I used to work uh, these mood disorders with some kind of video games. Some ones that the history, the narrative part connects really well with the patient. You can connect and see the life with another optic. With this, I used to work with video games like Grease, Hollow Knight, Celeste, uh, because they're really good video games to think, to connect. Uh, Also, conduct disorders
Mm.
to put limits to the kids, to start uh, to yes to know that everything in this life has a consequence.
I see.
Bad, good, positive, negative, everything in the life has a consequence. And I used to work a lot of this with kids with conduct disorders, and also to start working some regions of the brain.
Mm.
Also, the development disorders like ADHD,
Mm-hmm.
classic, the attention deficit hyperactive disorder. Yeah,
A
like Bart
common one.
Simpson. It's so interesting to work with that kids in video games because I work with puzzles, RPGs, to connect, to know how to make strategies. They are always looking for things, and this kind of video games are great. Also, I read a lot of research. Uh, Actually, one specifically Mexican research
Mm.
that start working with video games and with the ASD, the Autism Spectrum Disorder.
Mm.
Yeah, and also some days ago I read a research about how to treat ASD and trauma in the kids with Minecraft. It's interesting because you also connect with a boy or a girl that had autism. It's difficult, but
Mhm.
but with the video games, start to be great, start to be natural.
Mm.
I want to start working a lot of things with one of my nieces that has autism, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm start researching which kind of video games can I play with him with her, use with her, and how to teach my cousin and
Mm-hmm.
her wife to work better with
With
her.
her. I
Yeah.
see.
Also, disabilities, that is a part that
Yeah.
we also
That we
talk.
have discussed. Yeah.
Yeah. And personality disorders. Personality disorders are great working with RPGs to
Mm.
construct the avatar, to start looking about some things of the perception.
It sounds
Well, a lot
amazing.
of things.
There's a
Yeah, it's
lot of
a
options they
lot of
can
options. Yeah,
do with RPG based games.
yeah. And obviously, we work with video games in therapy. It's a little bit similar when we
Mm-hmm.
talk about esports. We know
Mm.
that esports is electronic
Yeah.
sports that are video games. But at the same time, we know that not every video game could be an esport. It's the
I see.
same in therapy. Yeah, I work with video games in the therapy with my patients and their families, but not every video game is used in the therapy. I need to be really picky, sneaky, really careful to
Yeah, you
to
really
choose it.
be really
Yeah,
careful with which game you need to
yeah,
use.
obviously.
Else, I can imagine that people will comment like, "But will you use this specific violent game for your therapy?" Of course not.
Nah,
I
of
mean,
course
I
not.
know that you have your options
Yeah.
in which they are parental advice
Yeah,
and it
obviously.
has your adult view on them to work with
Yeah.
your patients. So when
Obviously.
it comes to family problems, how do you use them?
Well, with in the part of family problems, sorry, I used to work topics like parental control.
Hmm.
Yeah, regulate the time to play, content, uh,
Hmm.
classifications.
Sure.
For me, talk with the parents about uh, ESRB. It's
Hmm.
it's a
Yeah,
top. Yeah.
it's
Oh,
important that they can
yeah.
understand how it works.
Yeah. Communication. We can work communication through video games,
Hmm.
affective attachment, uh, problem solving in the family. Imagine you put a multiplayer game with the family and they start solving their problems in the game. So
Amazing.
you just saw it and then, okay, you can solve the problems in the game. So let's talk about how you can solve problems in the family.
I see.
Also, roles and hierarchies and affective responses because some parents said, oh, yeah, video games are the digital nanny. No, you
Mm-mm.
need to connect, you need to make a lag with your kids and say, okay, why do you like this game? Why is so important for you? So I work this part a lot with them. And obviously, another important part is the parental children. Yeah, the little parents, sometimes the big brother is the parental of all of them.
Yeah,
So,
that's
yeah,
pretty
we
good.
need to talk about, we need to work with that. And let me tell you that it's interesting because, yeah, I work with the things. But at the same time, one of the things that I've learned in the course of these years, going hand by hand with the patients and their families,
Hmm.
is that they that ha- the sorry the that have given me the opportunity to be part of their life. It is the fact that we as an adults, we as a therapist, psychologist, uh, that if we want to make changes that have a long term impact on society, in education, in the change of an ideology and paradigms, we must do it from inside the family. Yeah, it's so important.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're serving as guides because when talking about video games, the same things happen, but I mean that we as therapists can support a young girl who who may be the next world champion of her favorite esports, the game developer of the decade,
yeah, of course.
the founder of the next great video game franchise, or even the inventor of the next console. But we will not be able to know that about if initially we ourselves do not open ourselves to possibilities of supporting these young people and
I see.
families with the therapeutic aspects. We need our, they need our guide. Not only to understand each other, but also to understand themselves as families, but also to understand the new technologies such as video games.
Of course, and sorry if you are all listening to my cat meowing. She's getting a little bit flustered at the moment, and don't let that distract you. I think that what you do is beautiful labor. I think that
Yeah.
we need really passionate people
Yeah,
in the therapy session as well as yourself, which really care about the well-being not
of
only of
course.
your patients but the gamers, because we know
Yeah,
that we as gamers are involved in many community as well, and we know that those communities can be a little bit nocive for our mental health. So I
yeah,
think there's a good opportunity that whenever we are talking about video games, how to receive positive feedback even from our communities, I think that
of
we can do
course.
more on those matters. So you were telling me about Tawi and their
Yeah,
game Endeavor. Can you tell us a
yeah,
little bit more so we can? We're getting close to finish this, so
yeah.
let's wrap it up.
Okay, both are very interesting games. Toei, it's important usage as evaluation and treatment. But the most important thing about Toei is
Hmm.
that a Mexican video game.
Hmm.
Yeah, that evaluates the cognitive functions in kids.
I see.
They have, if I remember, three research published in some, I think, yeah, in some journals of neurology.
Oh,
Yeah, they're so interesting, and Endeavor it's so interesting and innovative because Endeavor is the first video game that the FDA approves to being used as a medicine to treat
wow.
ADHD. Yeah, it's
Impressive.
interesting because they start thinking to substitute medicine with technology. It's a
Step.
huge step for the video games to start be looking it as medicine treatment. It starts being so serious that yeah, that's
Amazing.
so interesting. I'm waiting for Endeavor to have it in my hands to start working. And Toei, I'm going to start working with Toei and with some patients.
Amazing. I hope to know more about your research on how Tawi, uh, of course, with their endeavor, see how it changes for patients. And you were, well, okay, I'm going to read your quote. I hope you don't mind.
No, don't worry. Go
Okay, I'm
on.
going to read it because it's cool. Because video games are being such an integral part of our culture, modern family therapists are more likely than ever to encounter families with members who play them. That's from Ryan M. R.
Yeah, it's curious. Ryan M. Earl is a family
Sorry.
therapist
Yeah.
and a doctor of behavior.
Hmm.
Uh, it was one of the family therapists that I said, I want to know them,
Yeah.
to know him. Sorry,
Uh-huh.
uh, because we share a lot of things in common. When I decided to work with video games as a family therapist,
Hmm.
I had the desire to being by generating a change beyond its use as a therapeutic tool.
I
I
see.
yeah, I want my patients, their families, and the people around me to have the opportunity to experience and learn about video games as I live it. Leaving aside the myths and stigma so that they can see the great contributions and benefits that they not only have with therapy but also in the family.
Oh, that's so cool,
Yeah,
Veronica. Because also mental health is a bit of, a taboo,
of
and you're
course.
challenging two taboos. Like video games are
Yeah.
not as bad, and mental health is very important.
Exactly. Yeah. So, my recommendation as a psychologist and obviously as a gamer girl, it's a thing that I take from Ryan. Ryan in one paper. So, why, uh, why does, sorry, why I decide to talk about video games and family therapy? One, because I'm a gamer, and second, because I'm a family therapist. I study, and that's one of my things. And
Yeah.
also, my recommendation is that don't be afraid to study these topics, to
Yeah.
understand them, and put it into practice, especially in our daily life. Deny them and put them aside would be denying part of our present
Yeah.
and strange in the past and ignore our future. Because we live in a technological area, obviously we need to make the have an equilibrium, yin yang.
Yeah, with the
Yeah,
video games. And I like to show everyone who's been really patient with our with our panel here. You added us a couple of pictures of
Yeah.
your office, which I think
Yeah.
it's pretty awesome. And I guess you can tell
Yeah.
us a little bit more what's going on. But I see a lot of games over
Yeah.
there. I think that's amazing. And I don't think that, not even with my own therapist, we have such a cool space as you have.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, sometimes when the parents enter to my office, are so, I don't know, they look at, hey, I'm entering to my TV
My
room.
own living room.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Amazing.
yeah, and say, hey, let me explain you that I work with video games.
Video games. And you
Yeah,
make such a comfortable space for them because it really reminds them their own living homes. That's
yeah.
amazing. Okay, I'm gonna finish up with a quote that Veronica added to this presentation, so I'm gonna head and read it. And here goes. What if everything you see is more than what you see? The person next to you is a warrior, and the space that appears empty is a secret door to another world. What if something appears that shouldn't? You either dismiss it or you accept that there is much more to the world than you think. Perhaps it is really a doorway, and if you choose to go inside, you'll find many unexpected things. This is a quote from Mr. Shigeru Miyamoto, and this is it. Thank you so much for attending to our panel. I hope that you have enjoyed it as much as we did. Thank you so much again for speaking and telling us all your experience, Veronica. I think that you're being so passionate about the mental health of the youth is something very important, and even more in these times that are very challenging.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Miriam, to be a great partner. I enjoy to work with you, and thanks also to be a great developer and continue making that incredible video games that are so necessary to have fun and to learn also.
Okay, thank you so much. You're so kind. So thank you, everybody. Stay safe in these social distancing times and keep it rated. Thank you so much for watching our panel again. See you around. Bye bye.
Bye. See you.